All right, guys, welcome back to lesson number 2. And we went through lesson number 1 in success fundamentals, right? And remember, what we're doing here is for all you athletes out there who are launching your careers and want to make the best of it. I have a son who's an excellent tennis player, and I played on the Pro Tour for about 10 years myself. And one of the things I always found quite difficult to do is to actually find kind of like a training platform to work on mental toughness. So that's the whole idea behind this, is to create a framework that you can then use when you practice to actually like practice and get better at your mental skill set, right? All too often people leave that piece just kind of hoping I'll either have what it takes or not. But there's a far better way to go about it, which is just to think of it as a trainable skill, and to actually go ahead and put together, just like you would your body, go from running 15 seconds, 100 meters to eventually 10 seconds, 100 meters as you train it and improve it and get better at it, right? Okay, so just a quick recap of lesson number 1. And basically, the core theme there was that you want to identify your mistakes, and then fix them, right? So become the kind of person who's not afraid to make mistakes, who doesn't think that they're better than they actually are. Go out there, train really, really hard, collect your training data, and just look at where you were. If you go 100% as hard as you can and you make 10 mistakes over the course of that exercise, that's where you're at, right? And now go and look at it and say, okay, so of the 10 mistakes that I made, 3 of them were because I don't have the skill, so that's going to take a little longer. 3 of them were because I lost concentration, so that's something that I can actually work on immediately. Let me do that drill again, and let me see if I can get rid of the 3 mistakes that I made, right, for concentration, and that brings me down to 7 mistakes instead of 10, right? Okay, so jump into the app, go into Success Fundamentals, and we're going to grab lesson number 2, all right, and basically 6 pieces of the life puzzle, all right, so 6 chapters that you are going to embrace, that are going to give you the best chance of doing well, right? Okay, so in every single chapter that you're going to work on in your life, there's about a half dozen fundamental things, right? 5 or 6 things, to driving a car, to flying a helicopter, to relationships with people, that take you most of the way, right? So you don't need to learn all 100, you just need to master the fundamentals. And they're really going to take you a big chunk of the way towards your goals, right? Okay, so keep in mind, success is not doing extraordinary things. It is doing ordinary things very, very well, right? Okay, so let's get started on the 6 pieces, right? So something that is going to impact your future. Think about why your parents want you to go to Harvard. Well, it's for this piece here, right? What you know, right? Your knowledge base is going to shape your perspective, right? The more you know, the more options you have to help yourself, right? So if your car breaks down and you're a full-time car mechanic, it's easy to fix. You know what the problem is, you know where to look, you know what that smoke coming out the exhaust means, and you can get to it, right? You can't think of an option if you don't know that it exists, right? So if you go and you get medical treatment in the middle of the Amazon jungle in one of those tribes that's never seen the light of day, chances are they won't have the same medical equipment that you're going to find at Johns Hopkins, right? Okay, so what you know is greatly going to affect how your life works out, right? And of course, the converse is also true. What you don't know is also going to affect your decision making, right? The idea that you miss could very well be one of the ones that completes the puzzle for you, right? And so we live in an age of kind of instant gratification and quick fixes and gurus online telling you follow my program for 12 weeks and you're guaranteed to win Wimbledon. Well, this is not one of those, unfortunately. This is actual hardcore. It's going to take time, and you're going to have to apply yourself hard for many, many years to acquire the skill sets that create really good results, right? Okay, ignorance is not bliss, right? What you don't know is going to hurt your results, right? And it's very simple. Judgment, right, is your ability to take pieces of information and weigh them, right? You put them on scales, and then you arrive at, yes, we should try this, or no, we should go in the other direction, right? The outcome of putting those chunks of knowledge on the scales and seeing which way the decision goes becomes your next move, right? The smarter you are, the more informed you are, the better those moves are going to be, right? So experience matters, learning matters, and you want to create an environment where you're learning a lot. So watch your sport, listen to commentators, take notes, analyze your practices, see if you can have some situations where you say to yourself, geez, you know what, 6 months ago I totally would never have done that. But I've changed my mentality, and I think this is a better move now, right? Okay. When you are attempting to consistently make good moves, right, and you're planning your practices and you're planning the things that you will and won't do, there's an efficiency to that, right? Because you're going like Tarzan, swinging through the trees from good move to good move to good move to good move. And you don't have to stop as often and analyze, oh, that was a terrible move, etc., right? Okay. You don't need to spend the resource of time and energy and calling practice partners and rearranging practices to redo practices as often, right? Okay. So, basically the fundamental part of reaching a high skill level, right, is, especially in tennis, is your ability to make consistently good decisions, right? And so you really want to get into as many decisions as you can. Make whatever you think is the best decision, but be proactive about it. Be engaged. Actually say, I choose physically this choice. I'm going to come to the net now, right? Or I'm going to hit a big forehand, or I'm going to try to outlast this guy. Make the call, and then see the result of that call and try to update from there. Okay. So number 2 on the life puzzle is what you deserve, right? So basically we'll start this off by saying, life is tough. Sport is very tough. You're looking at about 1% of people that do sport being able to get to some form of a scholarship where they get, the next chapter of their life, a nice big education paid for by the sport. So you got to be in the 99th percentile in order to reap the rewards, right? That's difficult. It's going to require a huge effort from you, and it's going to require you to think on your feet. But you can take refuge in the fact that life kind of follows rules, right? And one of the big rules is that life's not going to give you what you want, right? We all have a lot of wants, but it will respond to what you deserve, okay? So if you have trained the most, and you have competed a lot, and you have analyzed your decisions, and you've become a very, very, very good competitor, you're going to win matches. There's no doubt about it, because you're going to run into people that just don't match you on a fitness level, they don't match you on a decision-making level, and they don't match you on an excellence level, right? So it's very, very, very hard for them to beat you because they quite simply can't match what you have, right? If I put a bicycle next to a Ferrari to race it, we expect that the Ferrari is going to win there, right? Okay, so a farmer is not going to be able to harvest because he's hungry, right? He can only harvest because he planted a crop and nurtured it, right? So if you want to harvest a nice big juicy crop of success, you're going to have to plant one, right? And you have to give it time, you have to water it, and you have to nurture it, and you have to get it ready to be harvested, right? Okay. Now, the way I like to say this one is you have to act like a pro for a long time before you are a pro, okay? Think of Harvard Medical School. You have to go to the medical school for 10, 11, 12 years before they give you the degree, okay? So you have to have the behavior, the habits, the disciplines, the work ethic, the competitive hunger that is world class, and then train that for a long time before it actually is world class results wise. Okay? So ask yourself a couple of questions. Do you deserve to be in the winner's circle? Do you deserve to hit each and every one of your goals, right? Big questions, and you know the answer deep down. Am I working hard enough to actually get what I put on my goal list for the year? All right. If the answer is no, you got to figure out why. What's going on with my motivation? What's going on with my energy? What's going on with my decisions? And let's get there. Okay. So for most people, they're going to answer it like this: yes, I think I'm talented enough to reach my goals. All right. But that's not the question, is it? Right? The question is not whether you think you have the capacity to reach them. The answer is, are you actually doing the work that's going to actually make those goals a reality? Right? And there's a big difference between those two questions. Right? Okay. So you need to be willing to do things. You need to be willing to learn, willing to change, willing to put yourself out, willing to take out the trash, in other words, get rid of some bad habits, right? Willing to pull the weeds, willing to lose a whole crop to a storm. Sometimes you take a direction in your game and it ends up being something that you like, you know what, I thought it was going to work. It's not. So all those hours spent honing that new skill that I'm now not going to use very often, it happens, right? Just think about Apple. They've got plenty of products that didn't work, and of course a couple that did, right? Okay. So number 3 of the 6, and this is a huge one, right? I think, there are a lot of people that I meet these days that are not very strong in their value system. They kind of go with the flow. They're kind of, half in, half out on a lot of things. But I don't get a lot of people that are strong there. Like, hey, I absolutely believe in hard work day in and day out. I absolutely believe in being professional day in, day out. I absolutely believe in making sure that I take care of my body after practice. I absolutely believe in being honest and ethical when I compete. Because if I steal the big points, then I don't get to practice them. Right? So I believe wholeheartedly in playing those points without cheating, without giving myself the edge. But yeah, that's something that I think has broken down quite a bit. But it's something that you want to nurture, right? Okay. Typically, your deepest and most powerful values are ones that have been won by fire, right? Same in our legal system. If you look at women's rights, or you look at those sorts of things, it's taken a long time to get to a point where those rights have been won, and they need to be defended. Look at freedom of speech or any of the things that we hold dear. It wasn't always that way, right? We won those values through fire, and then you want to protect them, right? They become very dear to how life works, right? Okay, so when you feel the consequences of sacrificing a value and you don't like the result, that's typically when you set your values, right? You kind of go through a patch where you've got a new girlfriend, you're staying up till 1 a.m., you're not eating right, and suddenly your performance drops into the toilet, and you start to realize, like, hey, I can have a new girlfriend, but we need to kind of get to bed at 10 o'clock. We need to carry on doing the things, that needs to fit in with the structure that I have that allows me to be successful, right? Okay, so this is why talent is so dangerous, right? If you look at the players who typically come through it's normally the guy who's further down in the development pack, right? Not the guy who was number one in the world in the 12s and 14s. And that's for a simple reason. The super talent is normally able to achieve the same growth that takes most people 100 hours in several hours, right? They can shorten that curve because they're quick, they learn very quickly and easily. The danger for them is that it sets a precedent telling them that they are the magic ingredient, not their habits, their work ethic, their problem solving, right? Inevitably, because this is just how it goes, you run into a situation where they can't learn as quickly, right? They can't just look at it, understand it, and do it, right? And so what happens is they take success for granted. They take it that it's always going to be that way. And then they're prone to thinking, well, it's the coach's fault, or it's the tournament organizer's fault, or it's the wind's fault, or it's my racket's fault. But they don't actually have the skill set that's like, not, some stuff is just going to take me a while to master. Just like in school, some people learn algebra like this, they get stuck in trigonometry, right? And no matter who you are, there are going to be things that take you longer to learn than others, right? And you have to have the work ethic and discipline to say, right, this for me is one of the ones that I'm going to struggle with. I can feel it. And so I'm going to use my habits, I'm going to use my determination, I'm going to use my learning skill to really immerse myself in the problem. And if it takes 100 hours, it takes 100 hours. If it takes 1,000 hours, it takes 1,000 hours. I don't really care. I'll get it when I get it. But I'm going to be really determined and really, really dogmatic about going after it, right? Okay. The early imprint that things come easily often leads to low staying power, right? And next to zero grit, right? The talented person simply has the wrong idea about the type of work it takes to generate sustained growth and well-executed planned development, right? I, for one, as a coach now, right, am a little bit wary of super talented players because those poor grit and work ethic habits are often joined by bad behavior when things don't go their way. And then they can have kind of a negative, destructive influence on my group, right? So I prefer to try and choose 6, 7, 8 people that are hungry, determined. They want to be successful, not because mom and dad told them it'll be nice to be successful, but because they actually want it, right? Okay, so now the middle of the pack guy, all right, the guy that's not super talented, he's the guy who's like, geez, you know, it takes everyone else 20 hours and it's taking me 30. I got to stay extra. I got to stay on after, right? And they've figured out that even with monumental amounts of work, they can only achieve incremental gains, right? They're often pleasantly surprised and genuinely appreciative, right? When they get there quicker than expected, right? But their core software tells them that this is unusual and that gains come from sustained, consistent, hard work, right? Now just imagine if that's your base value, right? It's like, listen, I grew up in an environment where I wasn't very good, I wasn't very talented, and the only way I could get better was to just slog it out, right? Show up an hour before practice, always do more than the coach says, stay on, do extra lessons on it, and just grind. You know, I had to do 30% more work than everybody else, right? Okay, so just some of the values that you really want to nurture, okay? And ask yourself how you're doing with those, right? So you need to value being out of your comfort zone, right? You need to be like, listen, I'm okay with being in situations where I'm failing a lot, where it's miserable, where it's hella like sore and uncomfortable and tired, I'm getting up at 5 a.m., but I'm well and truly outside of my comfort zone, right? You need to value, right, criticism. You need to value finding out what you're missing, right, so you can build it. It's real simple. It's like, I want to know, tell me. I don't sugarcoat it, right? I do not need to be told I'm this beautiful work of art on a daily basis and have somebody bicycle pump inflate my ego, right? I'd much rather know, hey, listen, in your honest opinion, if I play Djokovic tomorrow, how's he going to get me? What am I missing that he's going to see and he's going to pick on and he's going to destroy me? Because I've got a chance to do something about it, right? You know, somebody asked me probably 3-4 months ago, they're like, you know, why are you so tough as a coach on your players, right? And I was like, you know, I don't necessarily agree with that question, right? Because my players, we have an agreement to hold ourselves to this standard, right? And they pay me to keep them there, right? So I'm not actually being tough on them, right? I'm holding them accountable to the level that they asked me to do. I'm doing my job, right? And so I don't have any problems with my players coming to me and saying, oh, you're too tough for this, that, and the next thing. They're perfectly happy. They're fine. They love it, right? Because they want to be successful and they know that, same as when I was growing up, you know, I absolutely loved my coach because she was there in those moments where I got up at 5, we're on the court at 5:30 a.m., it's now 7:15, I'm tired, I've been at it for almost 2 hours, and I'm starting to fall, right? And she's there in that moment to say, right, these last 15 minutes can either be a write-off, right? Or we can pull something out of you. And that's where she is pushing. And that's where I did some of my best work, you know, but I would never have done that work if it wasn't for her. So, I mean, a huge part of my success comes from the fact that she held her side of the agreement, right? Okay, you need to value competition as a place to test your thinking, test your ability to rise to adversity, right? And then you need to value grit and resolve and the human capacity to withstand all manner of chaos as you kind of do it. No way, I just made my screen brighter so you could probably see me a bit better. All right, okay, so number 4, price, right? And no, this is not an economics class, right? But one of the things I hear today is, you know, it's all part of kind of a weakening of the mindset is, you know, the cost is just too high, right? And that's nonsense. The price has always been the same, okay? In the 1800s, they had their own challenges, but if you wanted to be in the 1% then, the price was the same. 1900s, same. 1950s, same, right? Okay. So your discipline bank balance, right, or your value system bank balance is going to be able to afford or not afford the price, all right? So if you have a high commitment bank balance, you've got a lot of commitment dollars to spend, the price is the following: commitment, the right disciplines, okay, working at getting better, showing up. Can't believe how many people cancel lessons 5-10 minutes before. You know, little Timmy's got a homework project. It's like, yeah, but you knew that last week, right? So don't create an environment for yourself where it's easy to say no to practice, right? Because it all sits here and you go, geez, I know I missed 10 practices this month. Now you go to your next tournament and you start thinking, oh, I bet you the other guy didn't miss 10 practices, right? Why am I not feeling very confident? Well, the reason is because all of those things that build confidence, right? Showing up every single time, making a plan, staying up till 11 to get your homework done. But now you go to the tournament and be like, hey, I'm the guy who did it. I'm the guy who did not miss a practice. I'm the guy who had to suffer and spend a few extra hours where I could have been sleeping instead doing homework. But I'm the guy that did it. I feel confident because I bet you the other guy didn't, right? Okay, the price is high quality work, right? This is another one. I see people, they don't value that piece, right? Of like, hey, when I get you, I've got to work incredibly hard and do my absolute best, day in and day out, right? The price is learning. Go home, figure it out, go through your notes, learn. Failing, being uncomfortable, right? Focus, get your mind ready. 10, 15 minutes, I see that too. People show up at 3 o'clock when the lesson starts, And then it takes them 20 minutes to get detached from what happened at school and to get, that separation. So they're actually only starting to practice at 3:30. It's not enough. You just wasted 30 minutes, right? Get there 30 minutes early, go for a jog a couple of times, a couple of miles, and while you're running, start getting your mind ready so when you get on the court, you can rock and roll, right? It's time to go. And those 30 minutes, if you add it up, it's 2.5 hours a week. It's a whole practice, right? That you're giving away due to lack of focus, right? The price is learning to say no to distractions. The price is a great attitude. So get your attitude right. Work on it. Be like, hey, I'm the guy that people love having in the group. Okay? Okay, so number 5, what are you becoming? Right? In the environment that you're in, right? If you stay there for 5 years, what are you going to turn yourself into? Right? What is that metamorphosis looking like? If you go to Harvard Medical School, after 10 years, you turn yourself into a doctor, right? Okay. What you have to become in order to win is the challenge, right? I have to become 50% fitter to take on Djokovic, right? I have to become 30 pounds lighter. But what do you have to become? That's the question that you want to have in your mind, all right? Now, you've probably gone to a lot of tournaments and you probably see kind of like rude, spoiled, narcissistic, cheating, right? You're going to see parents supporting this behavior, right? I have a great story, I won't get into it now, but of a guy who just got cheated into oblivion at a national tournament, and the parent comes up to me and slaps you on the back and is like, man, I'm really sorry that my kid cheated and stole the match from your kid, And I'm like, but you're still going to take the match, right? It's like you're saying sorry, but it's like, I'm sorry that I stole your wallet. Oh, okay, well, can I have it back? Nah, I'm going to keep it, right? Right? Anyway, just remember that the average lottery winner, right, 70% of people who win the huge lottery, $100 million, are broke within 5 years, right? And the reason is actually quite obvious, right? They don't have the skills of a millionaire, right? They don't know what the earned millionaires know about finance, about business structure, about looking after your money. The guy was a truck driver, that's what he knows. He's a truck driver, right? So basically, if you take all the money away from someone who's a skilled money maker, right? If you clear Djokovic's slate and say, right, you've never won a tennis match in your life, we've taken all your wins away, he will pretty easily win again and start adding to that, right? Whereas if you take someone like me, let's say you gave me 10 wins against Djokovic and you took those away, I'll never be able to beat Djokovic ever, right? Okay. So what you want is the skill, right? The results are secondary. You want to be someone that's like, hey, you can put me in the most dire situation, but I know how to win from there, right? Okay, so forget the trophies, forget the ranking points, forget all of that stuff, right? Focus on what is chasing your goals making of you, right? The process of chasing this skill set, what does it transform you into, right? And that's what you want. Okay, so what do you need to become in order to reach the goals? Don't ever forget that one. It's a very powerful one. Okay? All right, attitude. Number 6. Attitude is the outward display of your perspective, right? It's extremely rare to find someone who does not act in accordance with their values and beliefs, okay? And I'm not talking about one-off random, because you can get super, super highly upset or frustrated at a tennis court and do something that's not in accordance with your belief. I'm talking about measure this person over the course of 300 days, and the things they do 5 times in a year, write that off, okay? Forget about it. But what do they do every day? So if I got someone that's sulking every day, if I got someone who's quitting every day, someone who's not giving their best every day, someone who's late every day, this now speaks to their value system. They don't value being on time because they're late all the time. They don't value giving 100% start to finish because they're almost never doing that, right? Okay, so someone who values hard work will work hard. Someone who believes in grit will fight till the bitter end, right? A positive attitude, okay, and this has been measured by science, it's actually not, you can kind of figure it out yourself, right? If you are positive, if you think there is a way to do this, right, you're going to try a lot harder than if you say there isn't a way to do this, right? So if I got everybody that's listening to this in a room and said, all right, we're going to build a spaceship to Mars, how motivated do you think most people would be, right? They'd be like, there's almost 0% chance of that happening. If I said, hey, we're going to build a lemonade stand and we're going to try to make $100, everybody would be like, all right, we'll give it a shot. I'm pretty sure we can do that, right? Okay, so you're normally more resourceful. You're normally more willing to put effort forth if you think that there's a positive outcome available, right? Okay, so here's what a positive attitude is going to do for you, right? You're going to have more resilience in the face of challenges, right? Okay, so positivity equips you with mental strength. When you view obstacles and setbacks as necessary growth stepping stones, right, instead of pure misery, you look at it like, listen, I have to go through this, right? These are all the things that Djokovic went through. I'm no different. I don't get to shortcut or sidestep anything, so I'm just going to have to put on my shoelaces and deal with it, right? Okay, enhanced problem-solving skill. A positive attitude is directly linked to creativity, right? Which makes sense, because if you think you can do it, you start thinking, well, I wonder how, right? What tools can I use? What's a way for me to do it, right? Okay, creativity is one of the most important aspects of effective problem solving. In fact, it's one of the things that separates us from a dog is creativity, right? Okay. Optimistic people are far more likely to pursue innovative solutions, right? Okay, increased motivation. Positivity and optimism are the cornerstones of a can-do attitude, right? If you believe that you can be successful, you're far more likely to be motivated and get things done, right? Strong interpersonal relationships. Right? And coming from a coach's perspective, right, this is a big one, because if you've got someone who's positive, it's contagious, right? People see them working hard, people see them smiling, people see them having kind of like playful frustration, but loving the challenge. People love that. They want to be around that, right? When you see the opposite, someone who's negative and sulking and crying and breaking rackets and tantruming and whatnot, they don't want to be around that, right? You need people to help you get this done. Sponsors, parents, coaches, trainers, friends, etc., etc. This is not something that happens in a vacuum, right? So attracting people to your cause, right, humongously important. I can tell you from my own success on the tennis court, none of it would have been possible without the people that I had around me, right? Okay? So just keep in mind that you want to bring people to your cause, and a big part of why people like to get involved is because they like to see the human character prevail against all the odds, right? Okay, so the final one is physical power, right? When you're positive, you feel good, you have energy, right? You want to live at max output, right? Negativity is depressing. Depressed states are sluggish. You procrastinate. The atmosphere becomes heavy, right? Things get hard. Your focus shifts to spotting all the negative things happening. Now, again, going back to fixing your mistakes, right? Yes, you want to identify what's going wrong, but then you want to come up with solutions, right? What can happen if you get negative is that you start seeing those as reasons why you are not successful and are not going to be successful, because you're not actively solving them, right? You're just using them as an excuse, as a reason, right? Okay. Positivity does the opposite, right? You tend to find those little gems of good, right, which in turn provide you with fuel to keep going, even in the toughest of situations, right? Okay, so that takes us through number 2. Again, it's a lot of work, right? But that's the whole point. It's you're not going to become a world champion without really saying, right, I want to master this stuff. I'm going to put my time in. I'm going to manage my attitude, and I'm going to learn. I'm going to learn about the mindset of champions, and I'm going to try to emulate it. I'm going to build something, become somebody that is immensely powerful in the way that they think, right? So, all right, we'll catch you guys for lesson number 3, and good luck, obviously, this week in your practices, and we'll see you again soon. All right, bye for now.